Ito, if you're married or in a serious relationship, do you always find yourselves fighting or arguing? Fighting doesn't have to be verbal. It could be a silent war, And today we're going to talk about how do you keep your marriage alive and exciting. So, Lynn, why don't you come over and let's share a little bit of our challenges. We've been married for 19 years in a blended family. So, we each have three daughters, so that makes it six, and 11 grandkids combined, right? That's a Brady Bunch. And we both came from failed marriages, and we have learned a lot of things, a lot of lessons from those experiences. Why don't you share a little bit of our journey? Coming here, we've been married 19 years. So, how did we start? Share a little bit of that.
Um, it was tough because two different families.
Mm-hmm.
You have three girls. I have three girls.
Yeah.
You came from the Philippines. Your kids
Yeah.
grew up in the Philippines. My kids were born in here.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit, the culture, two different no, the culture, right?
Upbringing.
The upbringing is different.
Yeah.
So we always end up like, fighting
Uh-huh.
and, not understanding each other.
Uh-huh.
And then the kids, they don't get along together. So
Uh-huh.
it was really tough for us.
Yeah. And I remember living in a two-bedroom townhouse, and we were nine in the house
Mm-hmm.
with young kids, and my mother as well,
Yes.
living with us because being the only child, I made a commitment to my mom that I
Mm-hmm.
will take care of her, right?
Yes.
That she will be with me wherever I go.
Mm-hmm.
So you had to live with your in-law.
Mm.
So describe a little bit of your experience there.
Well, like I said, he's the only son.
Mm-hmm.
And, then I came along. My mother-in-law wants to make sure that, I'm treating the same Ernie the way she treats him.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And she
And she would
always
always
compare, correct me,
Uh-huh.
food that I'm preparing for him. Like, it was everything.
Yeah, and at that point, I didn't understand what the Bible was saying about marriage. And when we started studying the Bible, and it would repeatedly talk to me and say, hey, when you get married, you are to leave your home and be with your wife as a couple. And at first, I resisted that because I made a vow to my mom to take care of her, and I tried to hang on as much as I could. But what happened? You ended up.
Ended up wanted to separate and
Uh-huh.
move to another place.
Uh-huh.
And I said, we can't, I don't think this relationship is going to work.
Mm-hmm.
I think we should just go separate ways.
Mm-hmm.
And then, yeah, that's it.
And at that point, I had to make a decision of whether to let it happen or make a decision to save the marriage. And I made a decision to save the marriage. And so I followed her.
By the way, yeah, I moved out. I
She
got my
moved out.
apartment.
Yeah, which is few blocks away.
Oh, because my kids, my kids' school, which is I have to be close to where she goes.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, I have to be moving. And I told him, when you're ready,
Yeah.
when you're ready to be us being a husband and wife together,
Yeah.
and, I'm here waiting for you.
And it didn't take me long to make a decision to save the marriage, and that's when I followed her. And even though I did that, I made sure that my mom was being taken care of. We hired a caregiver to take care of her. She stayed in the house that we bought while we rented, right? And we made sure that she has food supply, and she was being taken care of while we work on our marriage. And how did we resolve our issues and challenges at that time? Do you recall some of them?
Um, well, we didn't really resolve that because,
Easily, uh-huh.
yeah, we resolved the issue of, being separated with the parents
Yeah.
after you got married, we have that issue settled
Mhm.
and resolved. But then there was another issue, but because we're trying to get it to know each other more, and the more
Now that we are on our own, right?
yes, now that we're on our own, the more you find out, differences between you and the marriage.
Yeah.
So
And what were you trying to do at that point when we started living really as a couple?
I try to change you.
And you were sending me books, right?
Why? Well, because you're. I guess it's different. I find it different attitude that I was expecting from you. That you will be sweet.
So I was not meeting your expectations.
Yes, sweet, caring, always holding me, always hugging me. That's the one that I was looking for, and it turned out you weren't like that.
It turned out that my kind of love expression is different.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I try to express my love by serving, by doing things consistently, but not necessarily touching you enough,
No.
right?
And I don't see those things that he was doing, like preparing a breakfast, doing all these chores,
groceries and all that.
Yeah, I only looked at what I want for him to do.
Yeah.
Okay, like touching me, loving me.
I was not showy.
You're not showy. That's
and there was a point that you decided to actually leave for a few days.
Again.
That's
my second time.
How many days was that?
I don't know. I think it was more than 3 days.
More than 3 days.
Okay,
and,
so I left because.
What were you thinking at that time? What were you trying to do?
That you don't care about me. That your job is more important than me. You've more
because
focused.
We were starting a business. At that point,
we're starting a business, and he was so focused on the business. He wanted to learn everything, but he forgot. I feel like he forgot about me. He forgot about.
But in my mind, I was doing it for us.
That's what in your mind, but in my mind is like, wait, is this what God created, like as a husband and wife? I said, if I'm learning about the Christianity and the Bible, it says
because you were a new believer
love,
at that point, right?
Yeah, because I said, oh, the Lord said you have to love each other, love, and every time it's love. It's all about love. And I said, I don't see that in you.
Yeah, and I remember you talking to some of your friends and sharing with them our issues and our problems, right?
Yes.
So what happened?
So I talked to my friends. I was so mad, my coworkers and my friends. And I was just telling them about how you were and how
this is
you're
your
not.
Version, right?
Yes.
This is your version.
How you're not taking care of me, how you always ignored me. So my friends, well, there's like different kinds of friends. But my friend said.
Some of your friends.
Like they said, oh no, that guy, just leave him. You don't need him. File a divorce, this and that. I can help you with that. And then I kind of like make a decision to talk to another friend. And so my other friend said, well, tell me what's going on. Tell me what the situation. So she's being biased, neutral, unbiased about the things. She wants to listen, and she wants to know if it's my fault or if it's his fault or if it's both. So that's what happened. So I made a decision to listen to this friend because what your friends like. You can
tell. Who's your real friend?
Who your real friends are.
And what did you learn from this experience?
That the people that said, talk to them, talk to your husband. I feel like this is the true friend. That they don't want to break your marriage just like that. That you can really count on that person, and they are really trying to save your marriage, and they are trying to work try to help
make
you
it work.
work the relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And then she told me, why don't you talk to him
Mm-hmm.
when, when both of you are not in a mad situation.
Yeah,
We're
you were
not,
both angry.
yeah, just wait until you guys are all calm and, and then talk to them.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I did.
And what changed after that? Because suddenly you came back
Oh, yeah.
and you were different.
But before that, because before when we fight, I always say, I always blame it on him. Like, you're like this.
I'm always at fault.
Yes. I would say, let's talk. I want to talk about the
When
situation.
is that when you came back?
Yes, the first one. I was talking to you, and I said, let's talk about the situation. And then the way I said it, I realized it wasn't right until, because I said, well, because, you're always doing this to me. You don't care for me. You don't do this. I keep on blaming him and pointing at him that he's the one who's fault. And then what he does is like he would defend, whatever. So how do you say that?
So of course I would always be defensive even though I wasn't aware of it because I was being accused of so many things all the time.
And we end up not getting not solving the problem. And then we're like, you know what? This is the way I always said, you know what? Just forget it. I guess this is not really gonna work out. You're always this. I'm trying to talk to you. I'm trying to tell you what needs to be done, but you're always defensive and you're always, not participate or not listening to me. So I said, forget it. Then I would end up going again, and then not talking again. It goes
finally, when you came
on
back,
and on and on and off.
And then finally, when you came back, you were different this time.
Yes.
So what changed?
I really prayed a lot, and I said, Lord, if he's really for me, if you gave him to me, I need to know what's going on. I said, I cannot do this anymore. I don't know if we are right, but you made a decision to meet us. And then, so I said, Lord, just change me. And I think I'm the one that is, making an issue about it. So I made a decision to change myself and approach him with a calm and not pointing fingers at you,
so you
and not blaming you. I stopped blaming him, and then I would just say, well, can we talk about our relationship? And then I ask him, what do you want me to do?
So you
became
more open.
Yes, I want to work a relationship, so I wanted to ask you, what do you want me to do?
In other words, you came to a decision to make the marriage work.
Yes.
Not just run away and leave. So if we are to sum up all these things that happened to us through the years, because I can say that I love you more today than yesterday, and I can feel that you feel the same way, right? And something happened along the way, but let me summarize these things. What happened? I can say that it's because of the 3 C's that we started doing. One is our decision to commit to our relationship.
Correct.
Number 1 is commitment. Because while you were away, I was down on my knees praying to God. And I was asking the Lord to correct me, to make me see my faults, because I made a commitment to save the marriage. And I asked the Lord to help us. And I didn't know that you were praying the same thing. In other words, we were on the same page. While you were away, God was working on us, and we ended up committing to each other to save the marriage.
Correct.
Yeah, and that is number 1. So that's when you stop blaming and I stop defending.
Yes.
Because now we are ready to meet halfway and we made commitment to make it work.
Correct.
Yeah, and that's number 1. And number 2, back in the day, we didn't know how to communicate to each other. And every time we talked to each other, we ended up fighting even more. And you ended up sharing your version of the story to your friends who at first gave you wrong advice.
And every time we fight, you don't. I'm waiting for you to confront me and ask me
Yeah,
something.
and
But
I would hide in my man cave in my office, and even sleep there, and letting the fight go on.
no, you thought that it will be okay
Yeah,
if you
you
just.
will cool down. I thought by being silent and not confronting the issue, I thought that you will cool down and things will get better tomorrow.
It,
Because for me, I can move on from there without talking, but it didn't happen. It became worse because in your mind you were thinking of the worst scenarios, right? And you were
yes.
thinking that I was ignoring you. I was not. I didn't care. So it made it worse. So.
And I was thinking that
Mhm.
I said, if you're a Christian,
Mhm.
the Bible said you don't sleep overnight without fixing the problem.
That's right.
And I was like looking for that, but he's
Because
not.
of my pride and ego,
Correct.
I refused to do that. Instead, I kept silent. Now,
And it turned out to be
it became worse.
days, weeks.
Yeah, yeah, and sometimes we say silence is gold, but not in marriage, because one thing we learned is that you need to communicate not with other people, but with each other.
Yes.
Because if you don't talk about the problem and you don't confront the issue, it will become worse.
Mm-hmm.
And when you talk to people who will give you wrong advice, it even makes it even worse. And here's the problem with that as well. Discussing your issues with other people, even though we have already resolved our issues, guess what? These people still look at me as if I'm the
It's
culprit.
still looking some
They still
fault to
hate
you.
me,
Mm-hmm.
even though we have resolved our issues, because in their mind, whatever you shared with them sticks with them.
Yes.
That's the problem, right? That's why instead of doing that, the best way is to talk and communicate with each other. And that's the second C. After making a commitment, we learned how to communicate with each other.
Correct.
And we stopped blaming each other.
Mm-hmm.
And therefore, I stopped defending myself and
Yes.
started listening closely. Because now we communicate.
And for me, I changed the way, because I always snapped when he didn't say anything good or something. I'm like, nah,
You would nag, yeah. And you
so
would, there was a time you were throwing things.
Yes, so I've learned to keep quiet and
to
then
control your temper.
control my temper and let it calm down, and then still talk to him in a nice way, still join him at dinner if he asks me if I want to watch TV. Even though I still like feel sad, I would just still sit down and be with him, just to let him know that I've changed.
Yeah. And the third C is we learn to get connected. So that means we became one. Because that's why, the Bible calls us the better half. That means you are not one, you are not whole when the other is missing.
Yeah.
So instead of trying to defend each other, yourself, instead of blaming each other, we became one. In other words, we learned to compromise.
Right.
We learned to meet halfway, that we became connected. We are now on the same page.
Yes.
We have the same goals. We share the same activities. We look forward to activities that we do together, and we have the same objectives and goals in life. So we keep the same values because now we are one, and that is pure connection.
Yes.
Because a marriage that is not connected will not last. Just like what I always tell you, love started it, but commitment will keep it.
Yeah.
Now, but learning how to communicate makes it even more exciting, because now you understand each other and now you are connected. And at the end of the day, here's the thing that I always tell you, Lynn. Even though we have 6 daughters and 11 grandkids, at the end of the day, it's just going to be you and me that will have to take care of each other. That's why, guys, if you are in a serious relationship, if you're married, you better work together to make it work. because at the end of the day, it's just gonna be you and your spouse.
Yeah, your kids is gonna grow up.
They will have their own
They have-
families. It's just you and your spouse.
Yeah.
So it's not, marriage is not just living together. It's having oneness. It's having unity. It's having commitment, learning how to communicate with each other, and connected as one. And that's how the Lord has designed it. And the Bible says, what God has joined together, let no man or woman separate. God bless us all. I hope we have shared some values, and I hope this will help you in your own relationship. Signing off. See you next week for another episode of our podcast.
Follow us.
Love you all. God bless.